over 20 years ago, actually. But I married Jean, as you all know, and Jean was in the church. I was not. I was a Catholic and a fourth-degree knight in the Knights of Columbus as well. And anyhow, that did not work out too well because when you're divorced, they no longer allow you in the knight. You cannot be a knight. Anyhow, I don't know how they figured that one out, but they did. I didn't know at the time that God was calling me. But about 13 years ago, I had a burning question. Something was bothering me, I don't know why. I had to know what the first day of the week was. For some reason that was important. I don't know why, but it was. I had talked to a minister back home. I used to have, well, I still do. I own a large commercial building where I have a room set aside for a independent church to meet, a 7-day, Sabbath-keeping church. And so I had asked that minister about it. And he came to my office one day on the whiteboard. He spent approximately an hour trying to explain to me the first day of life, as we know it, very first day. And I didn't understand him. Could not figure it out. What was the first day? So I ended up out here in Florida some 13 years ago, like I say. And I was determined to probably get that answer one way or the other. But when we purchased the house, I needed some work done. I needed help. And my wife says, I'll get you someone. I said, you'll never get anybody. We don't know anybody. She says, don't worry. I will get someone. I said, okay. So anyhow, lo and behold, she had gotten an individual from this church who's no longer attends, but he's still a friend of mine, very close friend of mine. His name was Jerry Honeycutt. Is Jerry Honeycutt still there? And I started to put a few questions to Jerry just to see, what he'd come up with for answers. And I don't know if he could read me or what, but he knew better than to try to push things on me. He kind of did it in such a way where he got me, sparked my interest that I had to know these answers. And he suggested a Bible study. I had never been to a Bible study ever. We had catechism in Catholic Church. We never had Bible study. This was something altogether different. And I said, yeah, we'll go out to eat and we'll go to Bible study. We had the Bible study anyhow. And in the meantime, I was going to get to the bottom of the first day of the beginning. And I said to my wife, I borrowed her Bible, I guess, because I don't think I had one at the time. And I said, I'm going to read this book from the beginning to the end. And I'm going to get to the bottom of this. I want to figure it out. And I proceeded to go to town and find out when the first day was. Well, as you all know, it doesn't take long. It's on the first page. Right? Very quick. I read it very fast. It was like, wow, gee, look what I found. Now, I'm married to a woman some 20 years that knows the answer just like that. But yeah. And could have given me the answer. But one thing about my wife, she never pushed anything on me. She knew my character. I had to take things in slowly. And I thought I did something great by finding this out. I've got a new discovery over here. And as time went on, I have had other questions. And I was determined to try and find out what was what and, learn and believe of the answer. I had to know myself that it was right. So we had bought a house. Jerry started to work with me, and I started to learn different things. And in the process of learning, I was attending different churches, this one being one. And there were some others back home. And some of the ministers were teaching different things. And I wasn't always sure if it was right or wrong. And one time when I had returned to Rhode Island, I had a question about the two witnesses. And like I say, I had studied with Jerry for about 3 years, so there was a lot of stuff going on. And during this time, that was a question about the two witnesses. I approached the minister on it, and he started telling me it was the law and testimony. And as we know, it's not. Now, let's go to Revelations 11:3. I want to read from 11:3 down to 10. So Revelations 11:3. And I will grant authority to my two witnesses, and they will prophesy for 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. These are the 2 olive trees and the 2 lampstands that stand before the Lord of the earth. And if anyone would harm them, this is important, okay? Fire pours from their mouth and consumes their foes. If anyone would harm them, this is how he is doomed to be killed. Law and testimony don't sound like that's quite the same thing. They have the power to shut the sky, that no rain may fall during the days of their prophecy, and they have power over the waters to turn them into blood, and to strike the earth with every kind of plague as often as they desire. Again, that tells me it's a person. It's someone. It's a human. And when they have finished their testimony, the beast that rises from the bottomless pit will make war on them and conquer them and kill them. And their dead bodies will lie in the street of the great city that symbolically is called Sodom and Egypt, where their Lord was crucified. Now, dead bodies, that's again this 2 humans. It's not 2 things. It's 2 humans. For 3.5 days, some from the peoples and tribes and languages and nations will gaze at their dead bodies and refuse to let them be placed in the tomb. And those who dwell on earth will rejoice over them and make merry and exchange presents, because these 2 prophets had been a torment to those who dwell on the earth. Notice, these 2 are prophets. That again answers it. So again, this minister was wrong. There's one thing I've learned at the beginning of my career as a private investigator, and that was to get to the bottom of things, listen and check it out, and find out what is the truth and what is not the truth. Now, for the Feast of Tabernacles, this minister at the time, okay, did not attend the feast. Now we know that it's mandatory to attend the feast, one way or the other. I know financially it can be difficult, but there are ways that it can be done. And being a minister, you can certainly have your own and bring a few people in. So there were ways it could have been done. He just did not attend the feast. And yet, in the scriptures, in Leviticus 23:1, you don't have to go there. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the people of Israel and say to them, there are the appointed feasts of the Lord, that you shall proclaim as holy convocations, that there are appointed feasts." He spells it right out there, so that's not really hard to understand. So again, that's a bad example to give if you're a minister and you're leading people, teaching them. You should be teaching them, and by example as well, is show them what they're supposed to be doing. If you're preaching something, practice what you preach. The old saying is, we don't practice what we preach. We preach and don't do it. That's wrong. Let me see, where was my place? So that was, again, a bad example. Remember, when in doubt, always read the Bible yourself and seek someone with more knowledge than yourself, which I have found a really good thing to do, because we have had situations in the past 13 years on things that, someone has said and whatnot. Some people call it a new idea, baby. Well, we consult with several ministers, not only our minister over here, but I have about a half a dozen ministers I could call any time. And we could ask questions and say, what's your point of view on this, what's your point of view on that? And we will discuss it. And my wife and I will discuss it among ourselves. And then we'll come up with an answer, a conclusion of what is the way that scripture meant. And as we have to remember, when we're in doubt, seek someone else that has as much or more knowledge. I always believe in, when you're learning something, don't try and learn from someone that doesn't have as much knowledge as you. You want to learn from someone that has more knowledge than you. If you're in the trades, go to someone that has more experience than you to teach you the trade. You never go to someone with less. It's like learning how to play golf. We go to play golf and we're going to take someone that just started 2 months ago and you've been playing for 6 months. You've got to go to somebody that's got a lot of little tricks to tell you. So that's quite important. And there was another time that I had spoken. I gotta find this other place now. Oh, there was another situation where I spoke to another minister in regards to a business. Okay, what does the person do? I had a business that worked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It happened to be a guard company, security guard company. We had armed and unarmed security officers, as well as investigators. The answer was sell a business. Well, having a wife and 5 kids, that's not an easy thing to do, sell a business and start over again. I could have turned around and maybe become a minister, would have made no money, though that wouldn't have worked. So the thing was that, I had to stay with it, obviously. And I tried to figure out, is that really wrong, having a business? I was not necessarily working there on the Sabbath, but my business was still running because it had to run. There was no way I could tell all the thieves, well, it's Sabbath now, nobody do any stealing, everybody stays home, behave themselves, go to church. It didn't work like that. No, they still are going to steal and take what they can and do what they could get away with. So we needed the security people out there to do the job. And I'm going to point out something in scriptures that says this. You can go there if you want. It's in Nehemiah 13:22. Nehemiah 13:22. Nehemiah 13:22. Then I commanded the Levites that they should purify themselves and come and guard the gates. Guard the gates, remember that. To keep the Sabbath day holy. Remember, this is also in my favor, oh my God, and spare me according to the greatness of your steadfast love. Let's go to 1247. And all of Israel in the days of Zerubbabel and in the days of Nehemiah gave the daily portions for the singers and the gatekeepers. Singers and gatekeepers, guards. And they set apart that which was the Levites, and the Levites set apart that which was for the sons of Aaron. So it goes to show they were being paid, those guards, to do that job. And in my case, my officers had to be paid as well. And they were working on the Sabbath as these guys were, and it was okay then. So in my heart, I couldn't find it wrong in what I was doing for a living. We felt that, you know, there is a job, it has to be done, someone has to do it. We've started this years ago, and to sell it did not make sense to me. Not reading these scriptures and checking with other people as well. It wasn't something that we were actually physically doing. So it was really wasn't, the thing was not to sell the business, which I didn't give it away. Let's see. Then I had another situation where we had a large controversy. In fact, I believe Manny might even remember this controversy. This was back home in Rhode Island. It was in regards to women being deaconesses. Okay? We were told by a minister that women cannot be deaconess. Men can be deacons, but women cannot be deaconess. And my wife, she went along with this for quite a few years. And then it came a sort of a showdown, we'll say, at an independent church. And we decided to push this a little bit more, see what's what. Because in scriptures, it does talk about a deaconess, and we'll get to that. So we went back and forth, and the minister claimed, because we believed in a woman being a deaconess, that there would be a pruning within the church. Meaning, I guess, we were going to get pruned. I didn't know what they meant at the time by being pruned, but it's like getting thrown out or whatever. But anyhow, as things went on, it worked out well for us anyhow. He was wrong again. It's another situation, okay? So we've always got to be aware of what the ministers are teaching us and telling us and checking it. If it don't sound right, maybe it's not right, and maybe we have to pursue it a little more and see what is right. And again, always go to other ministers or other people that are biblically knowledgeable. Getting back to the deaconess, in Romans 16:1, they don't have to go there. I command to you our sister Phoebe, a servant of the church at Centuria. She's a servant of the church, she's a deaconess in reality. And it does talk about this, a deaconess in the church. So how can you say there's no such thing as a deaconess if it does say it in the scriptures? It's like saying there's no such thing as a deacon when it says in scriptures there are deacons out there. It's like ministers. So these are things that come about. We had something that came by, okay, it's in regards to voting. It has nothing to do with being Republican, Democrat, Independent. This is what we got off the internet. This is it comes from a popular church. 23 pages of why we should not vote. Mind you, why we should not vote. Okay? There's 23 pages. Anyone wants to look at it, it'll be up there. I just don't want to mention the name of it. Okay? My wife read the entire book, page to page, completely all 23 pages. But why it should not. I mean, they use a lot of examples, you know, it's like everything else, but you can look at things two ways. Now, let's go to this one here. In the Strong's number 1249 said, servant is technically a deacon or deaconess, among some other things. So when I check this out, okay, in the Strong's, it does refer to a deacon or deaconess. It does say it in there. So it just became quite confusing to us when he says, you know, about this deaconess situation. You know, as when we read stuff like this, and this stuff comes around all the time. You'll hear something, somebody says something, you know, and you get your mind going. That don't sound right. Well, that's what they say over there, and this and that. And it's like, I gotta dig into it more and more. And that's what keeps us sharp sometimes and stops us from falling astray and going in the wrong direction. My pages got mixed up. Do you believe that? Don't go away. Here we go, it's hiding. Okay, I've attended some 10 feast sites, probably in the last 10 years. And not only attended them, also coordinated them here, a few of them. And in attending these feast sites, not everything is exactly correct when you go to a feast site. Sometimes you find something that's a little off, okay, that someone is saying. It could be a speaker, not necessarily a minister, it could be someone like myself that's saying something that's not correct. It's possible. I doubt it I say anything wrong, but you never know. I'm sure there's a few mistakes along the line. But the thing is that we've got to always be aware of it. Who's ever speaking, no matter how much knowledge they appear to have, they could be saying something, a particular scripture or something, misinterpreting it. And this will lead us astray if we continue to follow down that path. We always want to be very careful of what's being said. And I can't stress enough to always seek out help, from someone with more knowledge or other ministers. Let us always remember that we should not be led astray by by what people say. We have to be walking and talking examples for the people that we come in contact with. How we act in public, the things we say and do, and the way that we conduct ourselves is very important. You got 2 Timothy, and I want to read. I got a couple of scriptures, and please say you don't have to go there, I'll just read them. 2 Timothy 2:15. Study to show thyself approved to God as one approved, a worker, who has no need to be ashamed, rightly handling the word of the truth. John 8:31. So Jesus said to the Jews who had believed in him, if you abide in my word, you are truly my disciples. John 8:32. And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. That's one of my best ones. I like that. I even have that on my card, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And it's true, because if something is being said to you by an instructor, a teacher, a speaker, or whatever, and it's off, you'll always be at it all the time, trying to find out, what is it? Why is it? That doesn't make any sense. It's not right. So you've got to pursue it more. Once you know the truth, you're free of that anguish. It doesn't bother you no longer. You put it to rest. You know what it is. You've convinced yourself this is what it is, and I'm satisfied and contented. So that's what we want to remember all the time. Okay? Thank you, and God bless. And I believe that Jean is coming up next.
And Jean's going to say